We're back talking to your Jets football on Jets FM on the OFN. I'm your host, Greg DePalma. As we have taken the last, really, I think it's been about a few weeks off. It's interesting because we did the last video we did, we were talking about the frustration of the way that the media and some semblance of the fan base, how they were handling the offensive struggles. And the very next game, the Jets would go on a nice little streak. Positivity. People were talking positive about Zach Wilson. And they were sticking up for Zach. And this is a nice story. And then all of a sudden, the team has a loss, and it was a bad loss, and it was another loss, and then before you know it, the team is back, and the media and the fan base is back to acting like they have for the majority of really Zach Wilson's tenure here. Maybe even, of course, coinciding with Coach Saleh. And I try not to come on this program and talk a whole lot about it as I could. There are Jet videos, more channels that just talk New York Jets football out there. I hope that they're respectful. I hope that that they do a really good job of being fair, but for the most part, they're not. And that is why we have to come on here and give the information that we do and provide that and try and counter a lot of the silliness, especially when the team isn't faring all that well. And right now the team is dropped to 4-5. But is this really a surprise? Because if Jet fans would have looked at the schedule as they did, understood that they lost Aaron Rodgers, etc., and they would be 4-5 at this point, I'm telling you right now, the fans would have taken it. And they would have been very, very satisfied. Unfortunately, the way things go nowadays, it's you only get, especially because the way the franchise has gone recently, there's just no room, as far as the fan base is concerned, there seems to be no room for losing. No room for, all right, well, it's just a bad few games, or, all right, it is what it is, but we'll be okay. I understand it. I really do. To a point, I get it because of the fact that I think there are a lot of fans out there that are frustrated and they want to point the finger at the one constant being Woody Johnson. And you can do that, okay? And as Coach Saleh has said, unfortunately, too many times during his press conferences, fair question. But overall, I think that's just not the way to look at it. I think any individual, whether it's business or personally, I think what you have to do all the time is find out, have they grown? Have they matured? Have they learned their lesson? Are they getting better at their craft? And there is no doubt that Woody has, and of course Christopher, there is no doubt that they have gotten better over the years as being owners. I don't think they were ever that bad. Of course, I think that they made some bad decisions, whether, of course, the biggest ones being hiring the coaches, the GMs, that kind of thing. But then they got it right. And that's why, at this point in time, they deserve the benefit of the doubt. And I don't think that when they go on losing streaks, we should be pointing at the owners. I don't think that's the case. I don't even think you should be pointing at the head coach or the GM unless you do not believe in them. And you know how I feel about both Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh if you have been on this channel. So, matter of fact, I think one of the topics could very well be, do you trust Joe Douglas? I was trying to come up with a few talking points for this video, and maybe it'll be another one. But I think that's important. Do you trust Joe Douglas? Because that will... That right there, you ask that question at the very start of any conversation you are with fellow Jet fans. Okay, do that, especially if you believe in Joe. Do that, and I think if you do that, you're going to win the conversation and it's going to be over immediately. Because that's it. Do you trust Joe Douglas? And if you trust Joe Douglas, then basically what you got to do is you got to say to yourself, yeah, I'm just like an employee that's working for Joe Douglas, and we're going to have hard times, but I trust him, and he'll figure it out. And I'll be upset, and I'll be this, and I'll be that, but what I'm not going to do is take it out on this, that, or the other thing. Because why do that? It doesn't do any good. Unless Joe has my ear, why on earth would I spend my time critiquing something that I have no control over, especially if I believe in the guy that's running things? So another one I was thinking about is the Jets have a loyalty / veteran issue. That's another talking point, potential headline. Do the Jets have a veteran loyalty issue? And that's big. And also, now this one might be a little late, but maybe not, but the Jets post bye week blues. That's another one. They got to figure that out. And maybe a healthy Aaron Rodgers next year will be the trick. But that's another one. And I don't know if you want to blame the coach or just circumstance, whatever. But that's pretty big. Okay, so let's start with the whole setup. And I really do. Look, I'm not going to go through a whole lot of things that I go over on this program, on this video, because we've had other videos and we've talked so much about this, about the whole background to when Saleh got here and the coaches and how they've failed Zach repeatedly before this season, whether it's coaches or personnel, whatever, if we're talking about Zach, because Zach is such a big topic, we have to. So if you want to know how we feel and the homework we did to break it down, check those videos out. And I'll have a link in the description area of a couple of those videos, past videos that you can go over. Because I just can't keep going over it all the time. Let's talk about this particular week. I was very pleased to hear Coach. I mean, yes, you could say he's sticking up for Zach, and because he should. I mean, the fact is he should, especially coming off this past game. Why shouldn't he? It wasn't Zach's fault that the team lost against the Raiders. This was the epitome of everything wrong with this team offensively. Okay? And Zach is a part of it. That's it. Zach is just a part of it. But this is a particular game that the players around him failed him a lot more than what Zach did or didn't do. I mean, in other words, you would not pick this past game against the Raiders as the game to have the argument about Zach Wilson. You just wouldn't if you're on the side of let's get rid of Zach Wilson. But how we want to talk about this, a few things. Okay, and we could start with, once again, do you trust Joe Douglas or not? Now, let's say you're not sure. Because if you do and I do, well, let's just go to another video. So let's just say you're not sure. And so you're willing to, well, I have an open mind. So let's try to figure this out. Okay. Well, on the negative side, and I don't know what was going on in the conversations at the trading deadline. No idea. And there was no way. I mean, there was no chance did I want to hear about a trade the Jets made at the deadline that was going to sacrifice the future of this team. No way. Okay, and I've said this before too, is that I believe, because I don't think Woody Johnson's an idiot. I just don't. And if because let's just put it this way. If Woody were to ever fire Joe Douglas, and this is something we've talked about before, because some of the writers have brought this up, not recently, but they brought it up from time to time over the last couple of years. If Woody Johnson were to fire Joe Douglas right now, for Joe's body of work and what he's done to set this franchise up, then as a fan base, we're in big, big trouble. Because then we have an owner that has no clue and he's going to screw everything up. That's my take. Now, hey, some fans might be like, oh, that's what we need. I don't know. I'd be surprised about it, but okay. So let's go with the premise then that Joe's job security is fine, which it is. I can't believe it's not. I mean, and Woody's been here long enough to know what's worked and what hasn't worked and who looks like the smart guy and who doesn't. And he's not going to fire Joe Douglas. Joe Douglas is here. He has cemented his job status for at least another few years. So there's no way he's going to give up future assets. You don't do that when you're not a Super Bowl team. So you can say what you want about, yeah, we brought Aaron Rodgers to win a Super Bowl. The likelihood of the Jets winning a Super Bowl, even if Aaron was healthy this year and the entire team was healthy, was still a little bit out there, okay? But you are looking at a franchise right now that understands that for the most part, especially now that, let's just be real, Aaron is injured. The team has injuries. We are where we are. And that's the same thing at the deadline. You're not going to make deals to sacrifice the future of this team. So what? The Jets can squeak into the playoffs, maybe? That'd be nice. Maybe you win a game. And then what? Then you go to the draft next year, and because you traded away a key asset or two, now you got to do a few other things to kind of compensate. Was it worth it? Here's an example. Minnesota fans. Okay, now, I don't know any right now, and hopefully I'll get an opportunity to talk to some at some point. They're having a great time right now. Wow, it's great. We got this guy, Joshua Dobbs. This has just been awesome. We're having fun every week. Oh, what a season we're having. Nobody thought this was going to happen. Oh, what a season we're having. This is a lot of fun. This is great. Okay. Absolutely true. 100%. As a business, when you're running a business, okay, and we have to be real here, especially when we have somebody that knows he's not going anywhere. Are you sacrificing the win now? Hey, there's a lot of positive stuff going on. Everything's fun and exciting. We're winning exciting games, this, that, and the other thing. But when it's all said and done, Minnesota Vikings are not going anywhere in the postseason with Joshua Dobbs. Ain't happening. Okay? So what happens to Minnesota next year? Now, maybe he becomes a pretty good quarterback. And maybe he's the next Geno Smith. All right? Great for the league. Awesome. And now you can build your team around Joshua Dobbs. And there you go. I don't think that's going to happen, but there you go. Okay. Problem. Okay. And here's the deal. Is what if Joshua Dobbs kind of reverts back to Joshua Dobbs, and all he now becomes by the end of this season is he's a journeyman number 2 who, I don't know, maybe he's Ryan Fitzpatrick. Okay? Now, what do you do? The quarterback position. Okay, you got to talk about that. Well, are you going to, now you trust Joshua Dobbs? Is he the guy? Or are you going to go out and get a quarterback? You're going to I don't think they're going to bring Cousins back, but I don't know. I have no idea. Major point is, with all the winning that's going on in Minnesota right now, they have put themselves in a position where maybe they wind up with pick number 20 in the first round. I'm just throwing a number out there. Pick number 20 in the first round. Okay? Keep in mind, because zeroes in on that first round. Keep in mind, when you're 20 in the first round, you're 20 in the second, 20 in the third. That is a lot of real estate. It's a lot of slotting that you have lost because you went on this nice little fun win streak during the regular season, which, by the way, is over because it's April or March, whatever, and we're gearing for the draft, and we're trying to build this team for the future. And, well, yeah, but that was fun, wasn't it? What's very key for Minnesota, as far as I'm concerned, and this is, again, a little bit of an example I'm putting together here, is that it really needs to be that Joshua Dobbs becomes the next Geno Smith. The worst possible thing to happen for Minnesota would be they go on this run, they get into the playoffs, and like I said, at some point, maybe even as soon as the season next year begins, he just is backup, top backup type quarterback, stopgap starter. And all you did was provide your fan base with a couple of months of fun for the next several years of building your team right because of all of that slotting that you screwed up. Now, why I bring that up is because what's Joe going to do then? Is Joe going to go out there? Because, again, I'm not in these conversations. Is he going to go out there and he's going to sacrifice the next couple of years and the slotting to get better, to win more games? So, first of all, what you've done is you've given away a draft pick or two, okay, in order to bring in a player that's going to help you improve this season. So hopefully you can get into the playoffs, give your fan base something positive, and then season's over. Now you're getting ready for the draft next year, and a couple of things have happened. One, you've given up several draft picks in order to bring in that talent. So then you had that winning that screwed your draft positioning for the entire draft. Once again, it's not just the first round. So now the same thing. So Jets, well, maybe they're sitting there at 20 in the draft as opposed to 10 for every round. And then that means a couple of times during the draft, Joe's going to have to trade this draft pick and that draft pick to move up because he sacrificed with the trade. I'm trying to just explain to you the philosophy going on in that room. Now, I don't know what was going on in those conversations on the phone, obviously, because I was upset, still am, that the Jets did not go out and get anybody. How could they not? There were receivers out there they're all over the place. How could you not find one receiver? One. Give up a 6th-round draft pick. Come on. What is that? Seeing what we have here, how can you not find somebody that's better than what we have? We don't have much. Didn't do it. Same thing for the offensive line. And I know they're not easily, that's a premium position that they're not going to give away, most teams, of course. Oh, you want so-and-so? All right, give a 2nd-round pick. Joe's not going to do that. That's stupid. I think he actually did the right thing in going out and getting Roger Saffold, because Saffold's a guy that he could have traded for. He's that type of veteran guy that you trade for a 6th or 7th-round draft pick to help you. He's at least that kind of guy. Now, we haven't seen that yet. I don't know what's taking him so long. I don't know why Xavier Newman is still starting over him, but that's another story. Maybe we'll see him on Sunday. Got no idea. I still believe that if they believe that, and who knows, maybe he, I know the coach knows him and all that, but maybe the coach is like, he's not the same guy. Desire's not there. This ain't there. That ain't there. There's some reason why he ain't playing, but maybe it's just he has to get into this. He didn't have a preseason. He needed this to get up to speed. Whatever. Okay, fine. We got to think positively. So hopefully Saffold is ready in the next week or two to play, because I believe if you throw Saffold and Dwayne Brown out there, and then you have Becton, Tomlinson, and Tittman, I think that and you just take a look at them on paper, it becomes a serviceable offensive line. Okay, so whether that happens or not, who knows? But that's what we can only hope for. All right, so what I want to do is then take a look at the other position that, and the key position on the team. Talked about Saffold at offensive line. I want to talk about the wide receivers because and receivers in general. Okay, we've talked about Ruckert for weeks. I know we got injured. All right, fine. He was injured and banged up. I still would have liked to have seen him. I think from the very beginning of the year, we should have saw more of Ruckert. We didn't. And remember before I kind of tipped my hand as far as why I liked what Coach Saleh said this week. And part of that was how he referenced, again, because he has to keep reminding everybody that the team was built around Aaron Rodgers. Okay, GM was built around Aaron Rodgers. Actually, not GM. A play caller was built around Aaron Rodgers. The receivers, linemen, the system, everything was built around Aaron Rodgers. That does not excuse your offensive coordinator from being unable to be creative on the fly. How many times did we see Bill Belichick and that Patriot dynasty, from week to week, they have a completely different scheme, offensively, defensively. That's what made him so great. And we can't change a system here in 9 weeks. Okay, now I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, why this is so difficult. I really don't. Okay, but what we're going to talk about are and again, it goes also back to, do you believe in Joe Douglas? Okay, so let's try to with no knowledge of what's going on behind the scenes, let's think about what could be going on. Okay. Again, I said Ruckert injured. He's healthier, hopefully. We're going to see more of him, especially with CJ playing the way he's been playing. This is something we talked about in the very beginning of the year that needed to happen. As far as, Ruckert being a big part of the tight end group and not have to wait his time. Okay. And you know what? Before we get into the other stuff, this is a good time for me to bring up. Remember, I said at the very beginning, Jets have a loyalty veteran issue. And I've said this before. Matter of fact, I think I said this big time on the last video. Okay. What the biggest problem that Saleh has, he's too loyal. Too loyal. This has hurt coaches before. Coaches have gotten fired for being too loyal. I'm not talking necessarily about, well, I'm not going to fire him, so you got to fire me. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking just about a little bit more of the little picture, which goes on every day, which simple. This guy's not doing his job. You know how everybody talks about contracts? Hey, man, he's playing because he's making more money. That's not the loyalty issue I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about is, same kind of premise though, is I'm going to give that guy the benefit of the doubt, not because he's making more money, but because he's a veteran and he's earned it. He's earned the mistakes. And even though he's not quicker, okay, even though he's not more athletic, he's earned it. He's a big part of this locker room. And man, as much as I if you're a Jet fan, you understood what kind of a teammate Michael Carter was. You got all that. But you also said I remember, I think it was the first third down the Jets had against the Raiders last week. Michael Carter comes out. And again, it's just, I have to be reminded of this every week. He comes out and I'm like, what exactly does Michael Carter do here? Why is he in the game? He hasn't done anything for them the entire year. And there's Michael Carter on third down. How are the Jets' third down this year? Awful. And so you keep trotting Michael Carter out on third down. Don't you think if you have a really bad third down team that you might want to switch a couple of key players, including the running back? No. We're not going to do that. That's part of our strategy. That's what we've coached about. And that's what that's how we designed it. That's just really bad coaching, or they have a loyalty issue. And to hear that Michael Carter was released was so important. So important. I had no doubt in the world that he was going to be picked up by the right team. I think Arizona is a really perfect team for him. And I can't imagine that he's not going to end up having a nice career. And it might be with Arizona. And he's going to have Kyler Murray back there running all over the place. And Carter, I think, that's a great spot for him. Good for Michael Carter. And the Jet players are all going to be happy for him. It's not like you're going under the unemployment line and you got to go find a job at the local restaurant. That's not the case. Michael Carter is going to be still compensated the same kind of way, and now he's going to get an opportunity to actually have a better career with Arizona than he could ever have had with Breece Hall here. Okay? So but that's why it was so important. It felt so good that it was like the first step. It's like, yes, a popular player. I mean, there could not be a more popular player in that locker room, and they let him go. When I was growing up as a Jet fan, talking the Leon Hess days, I used to remember reading about what a great owner Leon Hess was. Great guy. Leon Hess was just a warm businessman, a warm family man. You know, the type of owner that comes to anytime he's around the players. I mean, just the type of owner that he's a great guy. He'll do anything for the players. I mean, he was really a nice guy. That's the type of owner you want, okay? In that respect, as far as that. But Leon Hess, he wasn't part of the decisions as far as, okay, I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing. Of course, bringing in the right people to run the organization was not exactly something that he was good at. But the point I'm getting to is that it kind of seeped into the locker room and the organization in a whole, and they were just too nice. You know, they took after their owner. They were just too nice. And while I was proud to have an owner and a team that was nice, and they were nice with each other, and they were loyal and nice, but they never won. They couldn't win. Now, they eventually did. They had a nice little period. But for the most part, early, just as a fan, it was like, I learned a lesson back then that being nice and all that's great. But in business, you've got to be ruthless. And this is what we're talking about. You've got to be ruthless. And the Jets had to be ruthless with Michael Carter. Now, I don't even know why they're saving a roster spot for Bowden. Now, maybe they feel it's a big part of special teams. Even though he doesn't play a lot, they need to have a fullback in there because of X, Y, and Z with their scheme. All right, whatever. I still think that there should be a way around that. I mean, why can't one of the tight ends kind of double as a blocker if you need him? Do you really need a roster spot for a guy like that? I mean, why can't Kenny Yeboah be on the team? I could open up another roster spot for another wide receiver. But okay. So that was the first step. Then we hear about Uzomah. It's looking like Uzomah is not going to be playing this week. All right, awesome. Another excellent detail that sounds good right now, and I certainly hope it's the case. Matter of fact, I was reading The Athletic. Rosenblatt, I believe, talked about how that this could be a very big possibility. that is very possible that the New York Jets are going to decide on sitting Azuma, and as long as Ruckert is healthy and he can get out there and play, then that's what's going to happen. And that it was possible that he could actually not play at all, and that the Jets would play Ruckert, and Azuma wouldn't even be on the game day roster. Now, I think that would be quite interesting if that happens. Very interesting. Whether I believe that's going to happen or not, we'll see. But if that's the case, I'm feeling good about it. Okay, so now we're going to go to the receivers. Okay, because as I was saying, couldn't he just find some receiver, any of them, somebody to come in here and play? I mean, how many times did I talk about Cobb and Lazard, and the fact that I hear some fans talk, oh, you know what? Hey, the Jets have weapons, man. They got Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson and yeah. Hey, we got some really big explosive guys, which they do. They have two of them. But the fact is, at this point, that's all they have. That's it. And then there's a massive drop off. Massive. See, for Aaron Rodgers, he needs the smart, the cerebral. I've worked with this guy. We have chemistry. I can rely on guys. The leaders, the veterans. That's what Aaron wanted. Because Aaron doesn't need to worry too much about speed. Because he's making up for that with his processing and his elite skills as a quarterback. But when you put Zach Wilson in there, it's a completely different team. It's a completely different offense. You're telling Zach, who's basically a gunslinger, he's basically Aaron Rodgers, or he would like to be Aaron Rodgers 18 years ago. I want to whip the ball around, and I want to have fun. And this is actually why I really like the way things are starting to turn out with Zach. Because even though it's not looking good, the result doesn't look good. What I like is that he's doing, there's so much learning he's doing right now. And and a lot of it is learning not to force the issue. He brought it up when he talked about, hey, the last time I tried doing that when we were behind and I needed to make plays, I threw whatever the 3 interceptions against the Cowboys in a half, whatever it was. And I learned, I mean, that's not going to accomplish anything. So in other words, don't force balls just because you're down, because that ain't going to, that doesn't do anything. Not going to accomplish anything. That is why you see Zach most of the time. That's why you see Zach not forcing the issue. And you might say, well, I mean, come on. I mean, aren't guys open? No, they're not. They're not open. When he has time to throw, by the way, no, they're not open. And why are they not open? Because they don't have speed. There's no chemistry deal going on there. Again, unfair for Zach to expect Zach to be Aaron Rodgers. See, Aaron would be like, oh, yeah, I know Lazard's covered, but I know Lazard, or I know Randall Cobb, I know he's covered, but I know I could do this because I have 15, 20 years extra experience as a Hall of Fame quarterback that Zach doesn't, which, again, is unfair to Zach. So now it's Zach. He's got this Allen Lazard who's had an awful season. With the drops, I mean, how many drops can the guy have, especially critically? If the Jets would have lost the game against the Eagles, could have pointed right there at Allen Lazard. But the fact is that even though he's had some issues so far acclimating himself to the organization and to the specific team without Aaron Rodgers. I still like Lazard. I've always liked Lazard. I was actually shocked that he became the type of receiver that could garner the contract he had, because I knew he wasn't very fast. And those guys just don't. I mean, it's very rare. It happens, but it's very rare it happens where those guys can become quality players in the NFL. But I saw that at Iowa State. I was like, man, this guy is like really good. Man, he could be really good in the NFL, but he just he's not fast enough. But what worked out is that he ended up on a team with Aaron Rodgers. Doesn't have Aaron Rodgers now, okay? And if he played the first 3 years of his career, first 3 or 4 years with Zach Wilson, or say this type of offense, or not Zach Wilson, but any quarterback that's not a Hall of Famer, somebody that's not top 10 in the league, he's not getting this contract. He's not putting up the type of numbers or the type of performances that he was able to do under Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers made Lazard rich. So Joe is like, okay, well, I see what I have here with Lazard, and this is also extremely important. I think it was talked a little bit about this week, and that is the fact that Aaron Rodgers is not retiring. Okay, if Aaron Rodgers declared retirement after he was injured, this team, this offense would look completely different right now. Why? Well, not sure Randall Cobb would be here anymore. That's for one. And number two, at this point, Hackett will be gone. So that right in itself, big difference. Okay. Hackett's not getting fired. Okay. Cobb's not going anywhere. Nobody associated closely with Aaron Rodgers is going anywhere. Why is that? Well, because Aaron could be back later this year. If not, he's definitely back and the guy again next year. And at that point, what do you think? They're going to do anything to screw up the relationship with Aaron Rodgers by getting rid of the guy, the offensive coordinator that he's just professed to love about? Now we could break down who, has he really, is he overrated? And he had the big Bortles year. And yeah, he wasn't calling the plays when he was the MVP. Aaron was the MVP while he was there. So to say it was his offense was maybe overblown. Whatever, it does not matter how we want to critique Hackett's career. The fact is simple. When Aaron Rodgers comes back, Hackett will be there calling the plays. He's not going anywhere. Now you might say, well, what about Zach then? Okay, a few things. Once again, check out the videos. I went over a whole bunch of reasons of why Zach is not as bad or deserves, to have been brought along better by this coaching staff. At no fault to him. So check those videos out regarding that. Okay. Now, Zach apparently has a good relationship. I think he has a good relationship with both guys. Quarterback coach, offensive coordinator. So that's fine. That's good. And that's important for Zach. Because Zach did not get along with LaFleur. A younger, more immature coordinator that didn't have a resume. Again, if you want to know what we talked about, check the videos. Okay, so that's important for Zach. You might say, well, why is that so important? Why do you think Zach's here? Zach is not still here because they just, he gives us the best chance to win. And when Aaron comes back, then it's his team. And then when Zach's contract runs out, we're going to let him sign somewhere else. That's not happening. As long as the Jets continue, Joe Douglas continues to see Zach improve. Okay, now you would have to be some really anti-Zach guy or a little ignorant about what's going on there to think that Zach has not improved this year. So the fact that they've seen improvement with Zach this year is just especially since they gave up so much for him, they get this feeling of, okay, now maybe we've got something to work with here. Aaron will hopefully play for another year or two, and at that point, Zach will take over this franchise. That and the relationship. Let's not forget that Zach has a great relationship with Aaron, and vice versa. And you're going to dump all of the problems that the Jets have had, the offensive line carousel, the receivers, the coaching. You're going to blame it all on Zach in front of Aaron Rodgers. That's what you're going to do. At this point, it's almost like blaming Zach, blaming Aaron's little brother for what's going on. That wouldn't work out too well for Aaron either. And it would be justified. Oh, we got to go to Trevor Siemian. Oh, we got to go to Tim Boyle. I mean, and then I hear about, oh, well, when we had the chance, we could have gone with Carson Wentz. Once again, reference the videos. All these topics. I'm sorry, man, but if anybody believes that Carson Wentz was going to come here and put this team in a position at the end of the season to hand it over to Aaron Rodgers and the Jets would go on and win a Super Bowl is just, it's foolish. It's foolish. Now, anything is possible, but it's foolish when you take a look at his career, which is really, Carson Wentz's career was all about one season, and that's it. One really good season. But injuries, and here's a guy that's a turnover machine, and you're going to put him on this team? The team needing to be disciplined, turnover free, and that's what you're going to put Carson Wentz? Now, also, let's get back to it. Like I said in the beginning, well, what happens if Carson Wentz pulls a Dobbs and the Jets are all of a sudden, season's over? And look, I'm not bringing Aaron Rodgers into this because it's still we're asking for something that's never been done before in the NFL. As far as, hey, we can set it up and Aaron can come in there. And it's not just about Aaron coming back. It's about how will he play. It's about, because how do we know how he's going to play? The guy is 40 years old. How do we know that it's not going to take him a couple of weeks to get into the rhythm? It takes any player a long time, meaning a few weeks, whatever, to kind of get into the flow while everybody else has already played 15, 16 games. So even if you're a Hall of Fame player, it's not going to be like that. And then how about the Jets' offensive line? You want to get Aaron Rodgers killed back there? See, Zach at least can run around a little bit. He can use his legs a little bit. Aaron can't use any of those. No. And remember what happened when he got hurt. And he tried to use his legs. He tried to make a move. That's why we're in this position right now. Why would that change? At least when it happened, we had our starting five. That was like the best group we've had all season on the offensive line. And the first couple of dropbacks, he was kind of running for his life. So I'm not gonna put the scenario about Aaron Rodgers come back and saving the day. If it happens, hey, that is the most awesome thing in the world. But it's the reality is just not there. So let's go back to the Dobbs situation and say Carson Wentz comes in and we win 4 more games because of it. Season's over, and Carson Wentz goes on his way. Thank you. Zach still stays the understudy. Aaron is back and next year. And here we are in April, and our complete draft collateral game has disappeared because we won 4 more games in the regular season. I mean, it's if you are like 90% healthy and everybody's playing really well, and the only thing that is preventing you clearly from winning football games and being a competitive football team is by bringing somebody in with the credentials and the history that says this guy, you can't mess with this guy. And here we are with everybody healthy, raring to go. So let's just go out and get this guy and put him here and sit Zach, and everything's going to be fine. What are you watching, man? And where's that quarterback? There is no such person. Carson Wentz is not that person. And as far as the team, I mean, look at this team right now. Look at the shambles they are injury wise on offense. This is not that scenario. And since when did Tim Boyle or Trevor Siemian become, I don't know, is that, see, oh, Dobbs did it, so Siemian can do it, or Boyle can do it. What, you know why everybody's so excited about what Dobbs is doing in Minnesota? Because it doesn't happen. That's why. It does not happen. If it happened like that once a year, that you're going to have a quarterback that's going to come in and play like that, well, hey, you take a chance. Hey, it happens every year. It does not happen. And to think it's going to happen with the Jets, come on. Oh, yeah, Trevor Siemian is going to light it up. Remember when the Jets brought Trevor Siemian in? I forget what it was, a few years ago when we had that injury at quarterback and Trevor Siemian came in. How long did he last? He lasted like a quarter before he got hurt. So what makes you think he's going to come in and light it up like Dobbs? Oh, well, you got to do something. You have to change something. You just got to change. You can't just keep doing this. But, hey, man, coach said it perfectly. If it was just Zach's fault, then maybe we would do something. But since it's not, and since I am sorry, but if anybody thinks Trevor Siemian or Tim Boyle, like if you put the three of them together, Zach, Boyle, and Siemian together, and you said, okay, with all things being equal now, we're in a situation we need to have a quarterback for us on our team, and we have a pretty good offensive coordinator. He's knows what he's doing, and we've got some nice weapons here. Got a really good offensive line, and we need one of these guys to help us out this year. I mean, 99 guys are taking Zach, man. I mean, just look at McVay, how he's doing in L.A. and what he did for Baker Mayfield. There would be no doubt in my mind that, let's say the Jets had given up on Zach and let him go, and McVay picked them up with the Rams. There'd be no doubt in my mind that within like 6 months, Zach would be looking like the first-round draft pick everybody thought he was. No doubt in my mind. I mean, he's got Cooper Kupp. He's got McVay calling the shots. They've got a Super Bowl organization here. No doubt in my mind. But that's just not the way it works for us as Jet fans, because we're not at the point yet with this organization like some of these other organizations, like San Francisco even, which I'm going to get to here in a second. These are winning organizations. They have a foundation set, and we're close. But look, I say this at the beginning of every season: the Jets are never, at this point, until there's more and more depth, they're never going to be able to get over the hump until they stay healthy as a team. Injuries killing them every year. And even though about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, which is still, first month of the season, it was Aaron Rodgers went down. Okay, huge, devastating blow. But for the most part, hey, we got past the first month of the season or so, and we're relatively healthy, and maybe we can get something going here, and maybe this could be the year that we stay healthy. Boom. Vera Tucker gets hurt again. After that, it's a shambles. And everybody's starting to get hurt again. And Vera Tucker, I know I was going to talk about the receivers, and I will, but Vera Tucker, since he's been gone, overall, the Jets have had 6 line combinations in 9 games. Can't win like that in the NFL. Okay? Just can't. Not the way the Jets are. I'm going to give you a big example. It's kind of been talked about. Some people have talked about this, and they should have. But this is just so important to reiterate that if you take a look at an example with the 49ers, Brock Purdy, Trent Williams, Deebo Samuel, you could not get a better example than that. Okay? Because if you take a look at Williams, This year, out 2 games, the Niners lose both games, scoring an average of 17 points per game. When he's on the field and starting, the Niners are 6-1, averaging 31 points per game. Deebo Samuel got hurt in the Cleveland game, early in the Cleveland game. It started a 3-game losing streak. Deebo out against Cleveland early. Trent and Deebo out the next 2 weeks. Niners go 0-3 during that stretch. One of their offensive players, one of their key offensive guys out. Premier left tackle in the league out. 0-3. Okay. Brock Purdy, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So no matter how stable the organization is in San Francisco, they, in that little window, were not able to figure out a way to win games without Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel. And Brock Purdy looked like Mr. Irrelevant. I know that's 2 players, and really the one key one being Trent Williams. So the Jets lose Elijah Vera Tucker. Clearly our best offensive lineman, because he can play multiple positions, which really makes it more important when there are injuries on the offensive line, because he can go anywhere. So he's out. And everything just basically, as far as an offense and the running game, really, if you're taking a look at it as a whole, as the season wears on, and all those different line combinations, I don't know a better example of how. See, people will look at it because the Jets are a losing team. They haven't been in the playoffs in so long, so it's easy to just they lose because they lose. But no. I want to see how they play when a majority of their key players are healthy. And I don't want to hear everybody is injured around the league because, yeah, there are usually a lot of injuries around the league, yes. But don't be comparing Jet key injuries to other teams. Look at the Kansas City Chiefs. Have they had any major injuries, rash of injuries like the Jets had in the offensive line in the last few years? Tell me which key. Was Chris Jones out for the year? Tell me who was so vital to that team that they missed him for an entire year. And you can say the same thing. Look at the Eagles last year. Pretty much the entire team was healthy. You've got to stay healthy. And the Jets have not just have not stayed healthy, they've had rash of injuries. And they had the biggest one of all just several plays into the season. And you cannot win in this league like that when you are trying to rebuild your franchise up from the bottom. It makes it that much harder to accomplish what you're doing. And it takes a very patient owner and a very patient fan base to see that. Now, we don't have, the owner is, but we don't have that with the fans. And we definitely don't have that with the media. Because the media just continues every single time to talk about Zach Wilson, and that's it. They can't think about something else on offense that's hurting them. All right, now they'll talk a little bit about Hackett, but for the most part, they just think, it's the quarterback. When there's nothing behind you at quarterback that's better, and when it's just so obvious to anybody that knows football that Zach Wilson, talent-wise, is the best quarterback on the roster. And again, they should have got this guy. They should have got that guy. Now, if you want to go out and get Carson Wentz and not have to trade for him and not have to give anything up for him, like I said, it doesn't guarantee you anything. And then what you also do is, like I was saying, oh, great. Now we won an extra 4 games this year with Carson Wentz. Yeah, it's great. People are, yeah, but you have a really good defense, man. So if you just have a guy, all right, well, what's Carson Wentz? Where's he throwing the football to besides Garrett Wilson, like Zach's been throwing the ball to? Oh, that makes Allen Lazard a better player? Carson Wentz makes Allen Lazard a better player. You're telling me Allen Lazard's dropping passes because of Zach Wilson? Come on, man. Now let's talk about the receiver situation because this is going to wrap it up. But this is important because this is the faith that I'm going to have. Because I want to have, and I think most Jet fans are at the point where, you see, you can lose ugly, like the Giant game. You can lose ugly games, defensive, boring games. I mean, you can not lose, but you can play those games, but you better win. As soon as you start losing ugly, low-scoring games or games where your offense has done nothing, they want heads. They want heads to roll, and I understand that. I mean, man, I am so much. I'm as frustrated as you guys are. It's just I am. I can't take it. If I wasn't doing videos or I wasn't, a member of the media covering the Jets, I'm not even sure how much of this I would be watching. I'd turn it off. I'm not going to watch this. I'm not going to put myself through this. And again, it's not because I don't trust Joe Douglas or I'm not trying to be a loyal fan. It's because I know what their limitations are right now. I know they're playing with both hands tied behind their back as far as lack of creativity coaching wise and the talent that's on that football field offensively. Doesn't mean I'm giving up, because I do believe that they have still enough talent in that room to turn this around this season. But in order for that to happen, again, the offensive line has got to, at least we got to see. See, I don't think you can go, all right, we're going to Max Mitchell play guard this week and tackle next week, and Newman will play this, and he's going to play there, and he's going to play. We're going to mix and match for the rest of the season. No. Jets are not going to go to the playoffs by mixing and matching the offensive line for the rest of the season. Not going to happen. The only chance they have is that Dwayne Brown comes back. Now you've got two, solid tackles. Okay. You have a solid guard in Tomlinson. You hope that either Mitchell, somebody basically takes over that guard spot, and one spot on the line is not a big deal, whether it's Saffold or Mitchell or someone else. And Tippmann, this is his job now. This is it. As long as he doesn't get hurt, Tippmann will be the Jet center for years. So even if let's say Max Mitchell is the guy and he's okay, but he's not all that great, that's okay. You can live with that as long as the rest of the guys stay healthy the rest of the season. You can still live with that one spot that's I'm not too sure about. Now if that happens, and the next thing, which is the last thing I'm going to talk about, happens, and maybe it's the most important thing I'm talking about on this video happens, is that Joe Douglas did not make a deal at the trade deadline for the receivers, for the types of guys that I was talking about. Dime a dozen out there. How can you not bring somebody in? Because we have those guys on the team. They're on the roster. We just haven't gone to them yet. Maybe we felt, maybe they're ready, maybe they're not, but we now need to make drastic changes like we did with Michael Carter. So now Izzy comes in and he plays more. Ruckert comes in and he plays more. And most importantly, we get at least one, if not two receivers that become difference-making guys in this unit to help. And these five, we're going to start, of course, with Gibson. We know Brownlee, stats-wise, college stats-wise, at his level, being FBS, he's the most decorated. And you have Taylor and Charles. You got Division II, you got FCS. And then you got this guy, McCutcheon. So I can hope, I think we could all hope, that the reason Joe did not make those deals is that I am confident. I've seen these guys in practice. I know what they could potentially do. But you know what? Hey, we're winning. As long as we're winning, we're still going to go out there with the veterans and we're going to still give them the benefit of the doubt. But isn't it interesting that as soon as they drop under 500, as soon as that happens, you're starting to hear CJ Azuma is maybe going to be benched. You see Michael Carter get released, and then you start feeling about, all right, it's taken a while, but they're finally going to give some of these younger receivers a shot, because you know what? They have nothing to lose at this point. And I would have hoped they would have done this weeks ago, because even like when they were beating the Giants, I mean, come on, who is being fooled by any of that stuff? And I think it was, and again, it's a loyalty veteran issue. Now, the season is not over. There's still time to salvage it. And now it's important that one or two of these guys step up. And look, Gibson, I think he's kind of already, I think that he's like an easy one to say, okay, I think he could easily slide in and do something. Not a star, but do something. But I'm looking at the other four guys. I'm saying, because Gibson's going to be also in special teams, a big part of the return game. But we can now, to me, it's down to those four guys. And again, FCS, Division II guys, whatever. Guys that have been cut. Charles, Brownlee, Taylor, McCutcheon. One of those four needs to step up, along with Gibson. And you have Lazard. And then you have Garrett. And you have Ruckert. And you have Izzy. And all of a sudden, and again, the offensive line stabilizes, and you're like, all right, we can do this. So let's take a look quickly, because we'll start actually with Brownlee here on the depth chart, the Ourlads depth chart. And as you can see here, Brownlee, not very fast. I mean, this is the reason why he was not drafted. Not very fast, but he's got size. And what I like about these five guys, you have one or the other. Speed or the size / catch radius. That's what I like. Is that there's it's not like, you got a guy that's 6 foot that runs a 4.5. In between crap. It's either speed or size. And I like that. Now, here's the size guy, Brownlee. And he was productive. So talks about his time at the community college, of course, before he transferred to the FBS at Southern Miss. Flashes shown over his career, comes to making the difficult catch, playing through contact, and combination with those tools will be a draw to developmental-minded coaches. The baseline tools and skills are good enough to project him as a potential number 2 target down the road. Now, it's down the road, but I take 3 or 4 now. Wouldn't we all? Proper blend of triangle numbers with a couple of plus marks. Hands hang near his knees, and they're attached to broad shoulders. So, and here's the end of it. He can really go up and get it, as we saw in the big catch he made at camp, with his combination of size, speed, and leaping ability, but simply needs to clean up the edges to his skill set if he is going to stick. Okay. So that's one. Jason Brownlee. He's not going to bring high level speed, but what, of course, we're hoping he's going to bring is he has the production at the FBS level, and as we saw in camp, he's somebody that looks like there could be something there. It doesn't need, again, they don't all, look at Lazard. like I said, because Lazard actually, what did Lazard run? Lazard, I believe, ran a 4.57 at the combine or pro day. Brownlee ran a 4.59. So if Lazard can do that, and he's able to make a career out of it, and maybe Brownlee. Again, I'm not asking for Brownlee to be some sort of star this year. We just want somebody to make a couple of. If Brownlee, Taylor, I got to look at these names. McCutcheon, Charles. If just two of those with Gibson, if just two of those can give you 2 to 3 receptions a game, that's all we're looking for. Because Garrett is going to get 9 or 10. And you're hoping that Ruckert now steps up, and you're still getting the ball to the tight ends. Plus, you're feeding Hall, and hopefully, you're also getting the ball and getting some production out of your other running backs, and making sure that, again, none of this is going to happen unless you have a healthy offensive line. Okay, so now let's take a look at Malik Taylor. Okay, so this is PackerNews.com talking about Taylor during, I believe this was talking about right when he was trying to make a name for himself in camp. 6'1", 220, talked about the practice squad in 2019, went to Ferris State, and he was a bit of a find for the Packers. He had a hamstring injury that year. The 2 years at Ferris State, he caught 108, 19, 23, 11 touchdowns. Okay, he got on the radar of NFL scouts. In his pro day, he ran a 4.4, posted a 36 vertical. Okay, played special teams, returned 3 kickoffs. Now, he didn't make the Packers out of camp, but the coaches felt he had tremendous upside and could physically and would spend the entire year learning the offense in the practice squad, which is what's going to happen. You're a young kid. You like what you see. This is what you do. This is how you scout kids, and you hope that they're going to turn into something. All right, so they talk all about that. Taylor has a different body type than most receivers on the team, and look who one of them is, Allen Lazard. Okay, he's the only one that was heavier at 227, but he's 4 inches taller, Lazard. Okay. Taylor has displayed his speed throughout camp. He takes handoffs, starts upfield, etc., etc. It's helped him to be the type of run blocker required by the offense, and he's had some drops, but his camp was solid, etc., etc. Let's see. Anything else useful here that I remember? Yeah, actually, it's some of the coaches talking now, which is important. You got the GM, you got the head coach. The pair often use the word consistency, but for them, they want it to come on the finer points of the position, not so much the splash plays that would wow a crowd. He was with us last year, so he really started to pick up the offense. That's the wide receivers coach. He's a guy this offseason who just mentally got to kind of take a breath and just hone in on the details of our offense. Okay, so they were all excited about him making a difference. And let's see. How about this? Just go out there and do what you've been doing the whole training camp. Like I said, the guys upstairs are great. Obviously, they see something in this receivers room. When it comes down to it, you have to be happy with what happens, blah, blah, blah. All right, so the fact is that Taylor got his opportunity, runs a 4.46, little opportunity, tiny. He did, by the way, catch a touchdown pass from Aaron Rodgers, just one in his limited role because he was really on the practice squad most of the season back, and I believe it was maybe 20. But he was with the organization for 3 years, so they were trying to build something there from an FCS Division II. Okay, so it's as low as you get. It's going to take time, 2 or 3 years, usually standard time for these kind of kids. But you have someone that has good size at 6'1", 220. That's really great size. and somebody with 4.46 speed. That combo. Okay, I was talking about you either have size or speed with these guys. Well, he's got both. Okay, he made the big catch in the Hall of Fame game too, if you recall. So let's hope. Okay, let's hope. Now, let's turn our attention. Tell you what, next guy up I want to talk about is Irvin Charles. Not sure if I have anything here on Irvin except maybe some stats, but Irvin, 6'4", 220. And obviously he's got that catch radius with that size. Now, this was the guy that was a 4-star recruit at Penn State. And then he had to reinvent himself, couldn't make it. It happens a lot. And heads to Division II, another Division II guy. Ends up averaging over 20 yards per catch. Great. You dominate there, you're supposed to dominate there. Excellent. That's good. Doing your thing. What they also like about Charles, and we saw it in the Denver game in his first ever special teams play, is that he can contribute on special teams. He's got the size and the ability to block on the outside in the running game, which is important because having Gibson or how many holding penalties and dumb plays did our team make in the running game this past week? So having guys who know what they're doing out there, I'm not saying he does. I'm just saying that was what you would hope that he'd be able to do, and look, hey, fact is, if the other guys are not going to, because what often happens is, well, we're going with the veteran because even though the young kid may have bigger upside and he might be able to wow you a play or two during the game, we're going with the veteran because the veteran's not going to make the stupid play. The veteran is not going to hurt us. Well, the veterans have been hurting them, including, of course, the last week. So that's why I think they're at the point where, well, look, if they're going to hurt us and they're not giving us the wow plays, well, we'll just go to the young guys. Because even if they hurt us, well, at least they're giving us something the other veteran, the slower guys can't. So here's a guy, really good size. Now, he doesn't have a whole lot of speed, Charles. It's just one of those guys that, runs probably, if you look at it, as slow as any of the receivers in that group run. But, again, if Lazard can figure out a little bit here and there, and then you throw in special teams and the other stuff, give him a shot. I'm putting him, he's like on the bottom half of guys that I think will make it, but he's in the mix, right? Anybody should be in the mix. All right, and then you have McCutcheon. Now, this is a complete unknown situation because he didn't make his splash preseason with us. He did it with the Rams. But McCutcheon, you probably, I would think that you heard about him when, he broke out and had the big preseason. A matter of fact, that preseason, which was, what was it? 21, I believe. It's a couple of years ago. That was the 22. That was the preseason that McCutcheon broke out and led the NFL in receiving yards in the preseason. But you know how many times I've seen that happen and then you never hear of the receiver again? A ton. And maybe that's going to happen to McCutcheon. Okay, now, this is what was said about McCutcheon just this past August. Sean McVay, wide receiver Lance McCutcheon is a great kid. That's really important. You got to be able, and again, this is the locker room. Joe Douglas is not going to bring guys in that's going to screw up the locker room. All right. Now, let's take a look at some of the positive things that McVay talked about. He's a really conscientious guy. I think he's just a great kid. Really has a better understanding of some of the things that we're doing. And really, when you talk to wide receivers coach Eric Yarber, and passing game specialist Jake Peets, offensive assistant KJ Black, everybody likes the guy. Okay, talks about the 259 yards and 2 touchdowns in the 3 preseason games in 2022, but it didn't translate in 23. McVay revealed McCutcheon has aggressive hands, but believes he has a more admirable trait. I think it's just more about the work that he puts in, the confidence that has been earned as a result of that work in terms of understanding the big picture. And sometimes at the receiver position, so much of it can be just boiled down to some of his opportunities. And he couldn't have asked for a better opportunity, really, outside of like really bad football teams. McVay said that some of McCutcheon's opportunities, including Saturday night, don't have a game plan at all. McVay explained that McCutcheon's ability to adapt and accept his role is also admirable. Sometimes the ball can come your way where you can feel like you're really where you're really a factor, and then sometimes you don't get as many chances. But I've been pleased with Lance, and he's always a joy to be around. That's as good as you can ask for, because you don't know. I mean, well, how's the guy? I see the stats, but how is he behind the scenes? What kind of a teammate is he, and all that? Apparently, really good one. And so now you have a guy that's 6'3", catch radius, positive catch radius. We saw the talent there in the preseason, so you know he's got it. By the way, he had a 17-yard average that preseason. So here's a guy that could potentially stretch the field, and he could also play special teams. Okay. Throwing in Gibson, and we know about Gibson. And here's a guy that in college had 243 career receptions, over 4,300 yards receiving, 37 receiving touchdowns, and 8 touchdowns returning kicks. This was at FCF Stephen Austin. He was an All-American there, and he led the FCS that year in receiving yards. That was back in 2021. Okay, so hey, like I was saying with what was it, Taylor? If you're going to dominate, or you're going to have a specific statistical measure that says, "Hey, man, really good." Well, you're supposed to, right? Division II level. You're supposed to, right? FCS level. You're supposed to, if you're good and you're going to be in the NFL, you better lead the FCS in receiving yards. That's what he did. But again, we know that. And we know Gibson. I just want to reiterate and keep in mind the receiving production, because I think we're just looking at, oh yeah, he's just going to wind up being a gadget play. He's just going to return kicks. He's 5'9", whatever. He could be more than that. And I'm not saying he's going to be somebody special in the receiving room, like I just said. But if he can give us 2 or 3 touches as a receiver, maybe 1 or 2, in a gadget play, and he's returning kicks, the more you can give the ball, put the ball in the hands in a football game with guys that can be difference makers, especially guys with speed, like Gibson, like Izzy, who's going to be playing finally. The more you give those, and like I was saying, it doesn't have to be 10 touches. But if all of a sudden now guys that are getting the touches are the younger guys, the guys that, especially if they have speed, guys that could make a big play, to turn a small play into a big play, the more that you, all of a sudden, collectively, they've got 15 touches, 18 touches. A lot better than, oh yeah, that was nice. CJ Uzuma, that was a nice little 5-yard reception. I mean, Randall Cobb, yeah, man, how old are you, 80? That was a nice little 5-yard reception. And of course, Alan Lazard, who still needs to be a factor on the team, and hopefully, see, I believe Alan Lazard, like he has proven before, that when he makes a bad play, when he drops a pass, he can come right back and make a big play. And that's why I like Lazard. He's just having a rough go at it this year. Still think he could be a nice part of this organization, but he's not a number 2. I think he could be a high-level 3. Okay? But you have to have somebody to go along with Garrett Wilson. Okay? We have to find that guy. And now, hopefully, one of these guys will get that chance. Hopefully, they're all going to get the chance. And hopefully, one of those guys is going to step up. And we'll see if they get the opportunity to be that number 2. Chances are it's not going to happen. And again, I don't think we need that guy to be number 2 this year. But once we go into the draft, I don't even need to go diving into contracts or this, that, the other thing. It is so obvious what the Jets need in the draft next year. It's just so obvious. There's two major needs: offensive line, wide receiver. That's it. Two major needs. And Dave Syvertson here at Ourlads, we just did our top 96 or Dave's top 96, and I brought it up. Look, there's so much receiver talent, depth wise, that you can pick up in the second, third round. It's easy. I mean, unless you're getting Marvin Harrison, which the Jets aren't, you are going to end up, unless of course Jets make like some wild, crazy trade, which wouldn't that be awesome? They make some like wild, crazy trade, move up to get Marvin Harrison. Imagine having Garrett Wilson and Marvin Harrison on the team. Anyway, it ain't gonna happen. Or Brock Bowers. How about that? Oh, that would be awesome. Watch Joe Douglas swing a trade, give up next year's number one pick, this year's pick to move up and get Brock Bowers. Just imagine that. So because you're not going to get Harrison, probably not get Bowers unless you move up. You're going to be guys galore, really talented receivers available production wise, and just wow. I can get a guy like that in the second, third round. Yes, you can. You can get a difference maker wide receiver in the second, third round. And then you go into that first round, and unless you move up in the draft, you get the best offensive lineman possible, period. And then you sign an offensive lineman again. See, here's the problem that the Jets had. We're going to close up now. Here's the problem is that it doesn't matter how many guys they sign. It doesn't matter how many guys they draft. If these guys can't stay healthy, you can't win. There's only so many guys you can put on the bench, and if they keep getting hurt, which is what happened. Remember in the beginning of the season, we talked about, I couldn't believe, I was looking at the depth chart and going, wow, I mean, look at this. We actually have starting caliber guys, in a limited role, that if something happens to our starters, we can actually bring in guys from the bench and we'll be okay for a little while. But what's happened is guys have just completely, I mean, our entire depth on the team has just been trashed. And so that's why it does not matter. And you can't keep, you can only have 4 really good, pretty much lineman backups. I mean, even though I'll tell you right now, the way things have gone for the Jets, I wouldn't be surprised if next year, when they're taking a look at their depth chart, that they decide, yeah, you know what, maybe we should have 5 or 6 guys that we keep on the active roster, quality players that, because we cannot put ourselves in this position again. So just for instance, I mean, look at this. So we went into the season and there was 4th round draft pick. Okay, so we had a little bit of rookie to keep an eye on. Don't forget Tippmann was on the bench. Okay, so you had 2 young rookies. Okay, that was nice. Max Mitchell started the season on the bench. Hey, he had a nice little rookie season until he got hurt. Okay, it's a nice little young guy to keep an eye on. Billy Turner was on the bench. That's 4 guys, and Billy Turner was one of those Aaron Rodgers Green Bay guys. Oh, that's pretty nice. We got that's a guy that can come in a pinch and could help us out. That's 4 guys, by the way. All right, Dwayne Brown, of course, should have started. McGovern should have started. Hey, Schweitzer was one of our better interior. That's another guard. That's one of our better backup guards. That's 5. Okay, that's 5. So 5. Now, and by the way, right here, and of course, Vertucka starter. This one, Al Woods, could end up being the injury that is this little sneaky injury that we don't respond to, and maybe what it says is that this could be our number 3 need in the draft, to go out and get ourselves a nice young complement. And I've said this the last year or so, that we really need a nice young complement to Quinnen Williams. And to give up 138 yards, I think it was, rushing to the Raiders with a rookie at quarterback, when you should be pretty much selling out on the run, and hey, you beat us in this passing game, and they gave him 140 yards on the ground. I didn't see Breece Hall get 148 yards on the ground. So that's disappointing, but that's part of the fact that we do not. I mean, Woods was a big part of our run defense, so got to get ourselves. So right there, there we go, 3, right there. Run stopper, and you can get those guys later in the draft. You don't have to be early, but you get us a nice little young run stopping lineman. You know, you draft a couple of offensive linemen, and you draft a couple of wide receivers. And how about Will McDonald? I know he'll come on soon, but I remember some fans were kind of upset that they went edge when they should have gone offensive line. And you could say, "Oh, I see, look what happened," but you can't count on injuries, man. But this was about Carl Lawson, and that's why we said this was a good move. It's a good player because he ain't going to be around. He hasn't done anything, and this is a defensive line that is predicated on depth. By the way, how's Bryce? Bryce Huff's done a really nice job this year, but how's Quinnen Williams? People can talk about, well, he's getting double team, triple team. First of all, that ain't happening, because if that was happening, then we'd be all over the place with the talent that we have on this line. Fact is, Quinnen Williams is doing a nice job. Yeah, Quinnen Williams, good player. But Quinnen Williams is not earning his contract this year. The dude doesn't have a sack. I think he has like a half a sack. I don't even know if he has. Does he have a sack? Seriously, what signature play has he made this season? All right? And when you're making that much money, I don't want to hear the excuses. You're on the field. You're healthy. I don't want to hear it. Okay? This is part of the whole identity of being an elite defense that the Jets are not. Oh, man, this defense is so good. You're wasting this defense. Now, that's ridiculous. That thing is getting so ridiculous. Oh, you've wasted the defense the last 2 years. What is this, college? These guys are graduating? You're not wasting anything. Quinnen Williams is young. Jermaine Johnson is young. Michael Clemens is young. Will McDonald is young. Sauce Gardner is young. DJ Reed is young. I can go. Come on. This is a young defense that's only going to continue to get better. More youth will be put into this defense. They're not wasting anything. But what they need to do still, they've done a better job of it this year, but once again, what they need to do, and I think obviously it'll help when the offense picks up their part of the bargain, but not only do they need more turnovers, but they need more sacks. They're not getting enough sacks. And I think that's important. I know they've done a fantastic job, but what happens with the sacks and also pressures, but what happens is the more of those you have, it makes it easier for the turnovers. And I do want to ask the question too, is Quincy Williams had those big sacks against the Denver Broncos, and then it's like, okay, where is that? Why are we not scheming Quincy Williams to get to the quarterback? I mean, he doesn't need to be Lawrence Taylor, but oh yeah, well, we found Denver did a few things and we took advantage of it. And well, why? No one else is doing things. I mean, you can't find a way to do your thing. I mean, get Quincy Williams in certain situations, get him to rush the quarterback. The guy is the fastest guy that we have. Now, I know it's dangerous because that means CJ Mosley's got to cover guys. But that's why, as I said also last year, what this team needs, whenever they get around to it, they have to find somebody at this area of the defense. They have to find, a hybrid DB linebacker, somebody that can, sort of like Quincy Williams do, somebody that can cover, not rush the passer like Quincy. All they want that guy to do is cover, and pick passes off in the secondary. That's what I want. We need one of those guys. We don't have one of those guys. Okay, if we can find one of those guys, that would complete our defense. That's why we're in much better shape on defense, because that's it. My opinion, that's all we need. That one guy. Offensively, we need some more youth and talent on the offensive line and a wide receiver. So, okay, that is going to wrap it up. So I'm not sure where I'm going to go with the template. I have to pick one of them. But I again, I think it's important um, to reiterate that this is not all about Zach Wilson. And I was hearing the other day, somebody brought up how one athletic director really pays too much attention to social media. And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, and I know it happens, but it's like, man, if you're an athletic director that pays attention to spending being said on social media, if you're a fan of that team, you're screwed. You are screwed. ADs and people in power, general managers in the NFL, you do not have to concern yourself with what is said on social media. And I know there are a lot of angry Jet fans out there on social media, and as well they should be. But I also know that there are a lot of morons on in media in general, including on YouTube, that I saw this past week. Um, I think it was what was it, Chris Long, I think, that talked about that the Jets need to. I don't know what he said about Zach. He said something about uh, getting rid of Zach or whatever, and a few of these others that are, especially these former players who know nothing. I mean, they played football, big deal. That doesn't make them. They don't know anything about coaching. They don't know anything about being a general manager, about running an organization, about contracts, things of that nature. So I'm not going to respect them, especially when they say stupid things like that. Yeah, let's get rid of Zach, and we'll bring in Tim Boyle, and everything will be okay. Yeah, it doesn't work out that way, fool. You know what I would really like to have, really like to see. I mean, and this is just an example of why we are not tailor made. This offense has not been tailor made for Zach. Remember when we had the big pro day for Zach, and he made those really incredible throws that wowed everybody. The interesting thing is, up until the Hail Mary play, have we seen that yet? Have we seen how many times have they called for Zach to throw the ball? I remember he did it his rookie season. Remember he did that with Corey for a touchdown? How many times have they diagrammed plays for Zach to throw the ball 50 yards down the field? Now, is that our coordinator doesn't want to waste a play because it'll waste a drive because he thinks that that's going to 10% that's going to work? Or do we just not have the talent on the team? We don't have that stretch receiver. Well, hey, you know what? You bring in a couple of these younger guys. Gibson's out there. He's one of them. Bring in who else could go out there and maybe go down the field? Maybe Taylor. We saw him do it in the preseason game. Maybe McCutcheon. Maybe he could do it. So, actually, McCutcheon's more size, isn't he? McCutcheon's more of the size guy. What did McCutcheon run? I don't think McCutcheon had a big 40 time. But the fact is, wouldn't it be nice to see that? I mean, where is that? Because if you're making those plays, if you're just at least throwing them, and you are giving the defense something to think about, then they won't be. I mean, if I'm a safety playing against the New York Jets, I'm not concerned with anybody getting behind me. Why would they throw the ball behind me? They haven't done that pretty much. Like they've done it like what, one every 150 plays. So come on. But if that's because we don't have the talent, then hey, wouldn't it be nice on Sunday to see Gibson out there with Ruckert and just throw in another one, Taylor or something like that? That's what I want to see. Not for a play, but for during the game. I think that'd be great. and I hope CJ sits it out. I hope Yaboa plays. You know what? Sit Bowden, sit CJ, play Yaboa. Yaboa can handle hopefully can handle the fullback duties, if it's only a few plays. Let's get this going here. All right. And if we lose to the Bills, as long as our offense starts to look better because we've got an infusion of youth, infusion of speed, a little bit more going there, then I'm okay. Because from the beginning of the season, I've been saying it. I mean, we're not winning a Super Bowl. As soon as Aaron went down, I think we all understood that. That's why I don't understand this deal about needing to do this or do that, do these extreme things when everybody knew our season was over after a few plays. Now all of a sudden, wait, but Aaron might come back. So now we gotta keep things. We gotta hang him around in case Aaron comes back. It's very possible that the worst thing that could happen to us is that Aaron comes back. Because just imagine what would happen if Aaron comes back and he were to re-aggravate the injury, or he'd get hurt again somehow. And now it's happened in December. So now he's got another serious injury to get over, which chances are, if he has another serious injury, he might just call it quits. But let's say he has another serious injury. Oh, well, I don't know. Maybe he's not going to be available till October, till November. So I don't know. That's why I'm not even thinking about it. Hey, if it happens, it's awesome. And again, I know it's not going to happen anyway unless this team is in contention. So we'll see what goes on Sunday against the Bills. The Jets have the Bills' number, so to speak. So they fired their offensive coordinator. And we're supposed to have an elite defense, right? So we'll see if we can take advantage. And let's also hope, like I said, most important thing is that we start seeing some of these new kids out there. And it shows that we've got something positive going on offensively, because I bring this up all the time. This is entertainment, man. We're supposed to be entertained in sports. This is our entertainment. Hey, I wait all week for the entertainment of my football team, and we are not being entertained. So let's get entertained, even if we lose. I didn't say we need to win necessarily, but I want to be entertained. Okay? The winning will come. Again, remember, do you trust Joe Douglas? I do. The winning will come. But can I please be entertained? That's going to wrap it up. Don't forget to subscribe to our new Ourlads channel here. Very important. We're building something special. We've got so many really cool things on the horizon. I promise you, it's going to be real awesome, especially when the season's over and when things start really picking up for the draft and the off season. We're going to have just wall-to-wall cool stuff to share for you guys. So you want to find out what we're doing here, subscribe to the channel. This is a all football channel, and that's all you're getting is football here on the Ourlads Football Network. So we'll see what happens on Sunday. Not sure when we'll talk again, but I hope when the next time we talk again, we're talking about some really just something positive, something where we can go, yeah, man, you see? All right, we'll see you guys soon.